Cheviot. Cheviot is a small town west of Cincinnati, bordered by Bridgetown and Westwood.
The town was formed in the late 1700s, with much of that history around today. Many of the buildings from the time still exist today. Much of the history is still being commemorated through the use of plaques and various historical sites. Cheviot has a population of 8,153. It has 4,355 males and 3,899 females, with a median age of 36.8. It has an average income of $31,894 annually. There are many ethnic groups, with the majority being white. These include Greek, Italian, and Chinese. 53.3% of citizens are religious, with 25.6% being Catholic. Many of its residents love their town and do what they can to keep it clean. In areas where borders are not clearly marked, spots of poor management occur, resulting in negative impact on Cheviot, such as pollution. These helped us identify points of need within the community that may have impact on health over time.
Physical environment.
There are many single-family homes in Cheviot, but there are also apartment complexes such as Mozart Apartments and Diana Terrace Apartments. There's a welcome sign to the north of the town. There are small patches of greenery such as this next to the field house. Cheviot is also home to many franchise restaurants and small businesses. Here you can see some residents like to keep their yards clean, while others there's patches of trash. Here you can see there are many crosswalks and signs throughout Cheviot. Here's a look at the road conditions as well as the infrastructure.
Education.
The school has 521 students enrolled. 273 are male, 248 are female students. The school also offers many extracurriculars for their students. Here's a playground close to the school.
Safety and transportation.
Many of Cheviot's residents have their own cars, with many of them parked in the driveways. For those that don't have their own cars, here's a bus stop that runs right through Cheviot. Cheviot has a high crime rate with a small police force of 11 full-time officers. They do have means of safety with the local Cheviot Police Department and Fire Station 16.
Politics and government.
Cheviot keeps its population updated as much as it can with the newest news and policy related to the affairs of the town. Much of the government meetings occur at the field house.
Health and social services.
This is Tanner Nesta, MD, which is a local family practice in town. With Cheviot being a small town, the demand for more medical facilities isn't as large as in a bigger city. This is the CVS pharmacy located in the middle of town. Despite there not being a large homeless population in Cheviot, there are still social services available for them, such as free meals at the library.
Communications.
Communication in Cheviot is done mainly by word of mouth. Because of this way of communication, they are a very close-knit community. They do have a Facebook group which has 16,000 people on it. A CVS pharmacy, some small clothing stores, a thrift store, and a laundromat were all seen throughout the observation. There are some signs displaying Mandarin. Through our observations, we saw 4 properties for sale. In some stores, there are alcohol and tobacco signs displayed.
Economics.
This is an up-and-coming town as the low cost of houses are bringing in more young families. The school is the main source of income.
Recreation.
During the warmer months, Cheviot has many recreational resources with reasonable prices. During the winter months, residents enjoy visiting locally owned businesses. Here is a public tennis court that people use. Cheviot has many walking routes for people to get physical exercise. The field house has a basketball court for local kids. There is also a playground for young kids to play on.
Perceptions of residents.
When talking to the bartender at a local pub, it was shown the citizens of this town focus on the beauty and simplicity of this small town. Although there are challenges, the optimism of its members keeps the community alive.
The assets of Cheviot is that it has open spaces, young families, and a well-knit community. Some challenges is that cardiovascular disease mortality rate is at 39.27%, fall risk at 144 falls per 1,000 people, and medical risk factors being 39.6% in Cheviot.
Primary nursing diagnosis is an increased risk for disease complication among Cheviot residents related to poor cardiovascular health education as evidenced by primary cause of death in Cheviot between 2006 and 2009 being cardiovascular disease at 39.27%. Our first primary intervention is having community education programs at the local field house to promote cardiovascular healthy diets and lifestyles to prevent development of cardiovascular disease. These programs would have interactive pieces as well as feedback techniques to ensure those that attend are retaining the information. Our second primary intervention is handing out flyers, door-to-door contact education, and posting flyers around town that have meaningful messages and statistics about cardiovascular health education for a set period of time, probably about 6 months. Our secondary interventions is doing BMI screenings for people in the workplace. These screenings can help find those who are at risk for cardiovascular disease, and we would use the numbers to help reduce the risk. Our next secondary intervention would be doing blood pressure screenings at the field house monthly for about a year to help us determine those who are at risk for hypertension and potentially cardiovascular disease. One of our tertiary interventions would be collaborating with a local gym like the one in the field house. Those that have cardiovascular disease would be given coupons and a discounted membership to the gym in the field house to decrease the risk for their complications. Our last intervention would be starting a running club in Cheviot for those with cardiovascular disease. The group would meet 2 to 3 times a week to simply encourage physical activity.
For all of our interventions, we would monitor and reevaluate our patients' health and lifestyle changes after a set period of time via surveys that we send out monthly.
In summary, Cheviot has a long, rich history, with it being a well-known community, as well as home values steadily increasing. The physical environment is well kept, and there are a lot of personal transportation that people use. In general, members seem really optimistic about the growth of the city.